Hello, I wanted to tell you the story about how I became a quadriplegic. Um, to tell my story, I sort of have to go back a little bit, just rewind a few years. I had my injury in 2007, the end of 2007, but just rewind a little bit for you. When I was born in Queensland, far north Queensland at Mosman. I grew up in Victoria, and when I was 9, I moved to New South Wales. And I sort of got a lot of shit at school, like bullied pretty bad. So when I was 14, I sort of convinced my mum and my sister for us to move to New Zealand. And so we did that, and then that was pretty fun. But then I started to get a little bit too experimenting with lots of things like smoking cigarettes. I tried a bit of marijuana at one point. That was, I think, when I was 15, maybe. It's so long ago now. So we moved to New Zealand. I got to experiment with a few things. When I was 16, I moved to Townsville to live with my dad for about 4 months. He was building a 747 aircraft hangars at the Townsville airport. So I was there for 4 months, and then we moved to Molong, and I was there for about a month. I was working at the supermarket, just being a checkout chick at the supermarket in Molong. And then on New Year's Eve 2007, so the end of 2007, I was at the pub drinking with a friend called Mark, and I can't really remember much of it. It was all a real big blur because I damaged my brain at one point, but I'll get into that. So I got kicked out of the pub because they found out that I was underage, and I lived upstairs I lived in the main street, but you've got the pub was here, then up the hill a little bit there was the butcher, then there was a hairdresser, and then around the corner was the laundromat, and then there was a little door near the laundromat, and that was the upstairs units, and I lived up there. And there'd been a few times that I'd been out there with friends, and we'd gotten onto my balcony, and then climbed over the balcony railings, walked along the roof, and jumped onto the awning and just sat there and sort of looked down because you could see like quite a lot of Molong by sitting up on the roof there. And so this was then, and so I was upstairs, and I was blind drunk out of it on vodka cruises. That was sort of my favourite lolly water. I loved it too much, but bad idea. And so I walked over the railings, along the roof, onto the awning, and a guy that I worked with named Andrew, he was downstairs, and he was sort of telling me, go back, go back. I can't remember that much of it, but I can still remember that panicked feeling that like, oh shit, like it hurts when it's a really funny thing to describe, just how that feels like. I can't really describe that feeling, but I went to turn around. I remember that panicked feeling when I slipped. I went down. I would have hit the back of my neck on the awning, and hit my head as well. I split the skin around my skull, actually pretty much ripped that to shreds, and split my skull in about 5 different places. So I broke my neck, and I broke my back and damaged my spine on the butcher's roof. I damaged my C4 to 5 vertebrae. I landed down on the footpath. This was all coming from 7 meters down. Pretty hard impact, but the second I slipped, I would have been knocked out, so I don't remember it. And then I landed down legs first onto the footpath, broke both of my femurs, Then I landed straight down face first. I broke my sternum, hoping that one's right. I thought that I was lucky that I didn't break my nose, but I found out 6 years later when I went to the ear, nose and throat doctor a few months ago. Oh, silly me, I've broken my nose, but not the bony bit, just the little septum thing, the bit in the middle, so I'm still on the hospital waiting list to get that fixed. But when I landed, I lost a lot of blood, but it was sort of coming in the wrong way. It was a bit of internal bleeding, and yeah, you've got about 6.5 litres of blood in your body, and I lost about 5 litres or something. And but Andrew, the guy that worked at the supermarket, he held my head together for about, I don't know, half an hour before the ambulance got there. At this point, I'd sort of stopped breathing. I wasn't really alive anymore. But the fact that I had alcohol in my system, I'm pretty sure that's how I came back. I'm in no way am I proud of what I did, but I'm impressed in a way that I came back from the dead, because not many people can say that. So when the ambulance got there, they had to sort of do their little defibrillator thing to wake me back up again. Then I was taken to the Orange Hospital, which is about half an hour from Molong. Then I was airlifted by care flight and taken to the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney. I was in an induced coma for 3 weeks and intensive care for 5 weeks, all up at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. After 3 weeks, the doctors thought that I wasn't going to be, if I was to survive, I'd be severely brain damaged and paralysed from the neck down. And as you can see, they were wrong, but at the time, my parents didn't know this. My dad sort of took the long, he had faith that I would be okay, and thankfully he was right, and I owe him everything. I owe my life to my dad for that. And so after the 5 weeks at the Royal North Shore Hospital, I was taken to the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney. This was all happened in Sydney. Taken to the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital. Taken from the taken to Royal North Shore. Messed that up a little bit. Taken to Royal North Shore, and I was there for about 3 months doing a bit of a rehab thing. I had to learn how to breathe again because I had from when I fell and when I was put into the induced coma, I had a tracheostomy just put straight in here, like a tube that goes all the way down into my lungs, and that breathed for me. So I had to learn how to breathe again, how to talk again, how to think, how to smile. I had to learn how to write, how to read, how to draw. Everything that everybody takes for granted, I had to learn everything all over again. And so after the 3 months that I spent at Royal North Shore, I was taken to Royal Ride Brain Injury Rehabilitation. That was not the nicest place, and I'm not going to get into any detail there. After 3 months there, I was taken to Murong Spinal Rehabilitation Centre, where I was there for 3 months and got in a bit of shit with some of the physios. And at one point, they tried to get me up to walk on the big walking frame thing. That didn't quite work out as well as I hoped. I only did it once and I couldn't do it again. I don't know what it was. It's just couldn't do it again. And then, so after 3 months there, on my birthday on October, on the 9th of October 2008, I was taken to the Bathurst Hospital for 3 months. Still hospital, but it was way better than Sydney, and I just didn't have much of a liking for Sydney. And so I was there for 3 months, and then about a week before Christmas 2008, I came home to my dad's place in Manildra, the one that he had built. So while I was in hospital, he'd sort of been back and forth to finish the house and all that, and getting people to help build the house for him. Before I had my accident, my dad was still putting like the insulation in. He hadn't put it didn't really have walls at that point. So then I was there for about a year, and then on the 6th of December, 2009. So I was in Manildra for a year after my accident, and that was a little bit tricky. Trying to think how to do everything in reverse, like how to do it in a wheelchair. It's a lot harder than you'd think. It's for anybody who's watching this that is in a wheelchair, you know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's not, don't ever doubt that it is hard. Believe me, it is very hard. So had to learn everything. I can do quite a lot for myself, so I can't get myself up or put myself to bed. I still get help to do that, but I can do most things by myself. And so then on the 6th of December 2009, it was actually on the 7th of December, I think it was on Saturday or something, my uncle went and knocked on the front door, and because my dad was away working at this point in Yarrawonga, because my dad was a shed builder. He was building sheds in Yarrawonga, and my uncle went and knocked on the door, and I said, "Oh, hi, how you going?" And he said, "Oh, not good. Yeah, your dad's died." That was the biggest shock to my system ever. Not a nice thing to hear. Like, my dad had a little microlight aeroplane, and he was experienced to ride it. He had a license to drive it and all that, but went and turned the plane. They were too low to the ground. The side wing hit the paddock, and boom, they were gone. So my uncle was in the back seat, and my dad was in the front seat, and they died instantly. I have one uncle left, and that's the uncle that knocked on my door. So I have lots of other uncles, but none that are my dad's siblings. So that was really big thing. And then 2010 was a little bit tricky, trying to figure out what's going to happen to me, where am I going to go, because I sort of couldn't live by myself at this point. My auntie was going to look after me, and then, she sort of fell apart, and I don't blame her at all, because I think everybody was sort of falling apart at this point. And so in May 2010, I spent 2.5 months at a nursing home in Condobolin. Really not the nicest place to be. I was at the high care ward with all the people with dementia, and for anybody who's been in that situation around people like that, it's for 2.5 months. It is, yeah. I've always said to myself, like, that would be the only reason I'd ever put a gun to my head, is if I got put back there. I'm not suicidal in any form or shape, but I would if I got put back there. It was horrible. And but then in August 2010, a place opened up in Orange, and I took it. I didn't care that I was living by myself. I didn't care that I was completely inexperienced, even though before I had my accident, I was living by myself, but I hadn't done it in the wheelchair, and then I did it, and yep, it's been great. And I'd been waiting for a couple of years for the place that I'm in now, and finally it was finished, because the builders kept going into bankruptcy, and then I moved here in December 2012, and I've been living here since, and it's fantastic because I don't have to put up with anybody. Because at the place that I was at before, it was sort of like a little retirement home where you got to go up to the dining room for lunch, and there's units so close together, and you can see the size of my lounge room. The size of my lounge room is twice the size of the lounge, probably actually about 4 times the size of my lounge room at the other place, and the walls were super thin, like you could hear someone cough right next door. But so then I got here, and that was fantastic, and I've been going to the same gym since end of 2010, maybe start of 2011. So I've been working on doing standing transfers at the gym for about 2 years. I can't quite get up by myself, but I'm working on it. I have a lot of core control and back muscles and a lot of things that most quadriplegics don't have. But I'm one of those strange cases, the ones where, like, how is she still alive sort of thing. And but I can move, I can do a lot of things that other people can't do. I'm very fortunate for what I've got, and if I could change it, I would, but you know what? I can't go back. I can't rewind time. If every single day, if I thought about my dad and everything and about my accident, no, if I did that, I'd just be a complete mess. So no matter what anybody's story is, I know that there's got to be some people with stories worse off than me, but you know what? Sometimes life just goes on and you've got to move on, you know? So this is my life now, and I hope you're still watching and you're still listening. And if you have any questions at all, like, there is no limits to the questions that I will answer. If you have anything, as long as it's not really stupid and you mean it in a sarcastic way, but if you really want to ask a question, just ask. I'm totally fine. Just put in the comments below, or send me a message, and I'll be more than happy to answer. And yeah, thank you for listening.